This is my game, Platformer Kitchen. I've been doing game development for around a year now, but I've never really had time to stick to any projects and actually progress forward. I made 2 videos last year, but I never really cared to continue with the journey, and instead I leaned my focus more towards learning Blender. This January, however, I felt the need to return to game development, and now I finally have a long-term project that I plan to be working on for quite a while, and possibly release to Steam one day. I'm Bench Development, and this is the first devlog of my new game, Platformer Kitchen. This is the first devlog and there's not really much to show off for it, so I'm just going to start with the game's concept. The main idea for it was to make a platformer game that also doubles as a cooking game. It's quite similar to Overcooked, but there will be a few differences, most of which have to do with grabbing cooking game aspects and merging it together with platformer aspects. For example, instead of time management, you focus more on speedrunning. That's all I can really share for now, but I will go further into depth in future devlogs when I have more stuff to show off. The development started with just a drawing of 4 characters that I wanted to put into the game. I know people say to prototype your game before decorating it, but once I had the idea for all of them, I just really wanted to draw them immediately, and that kinda goes for the rest of the progress so far. Here's the 4 main characters I'll be adding to my game. They're gonna have different controls that allow for more movement options. Here we have Cashew the Capybara, Gravy the Rhino, Pepper the Fox, and Custard the Bunny. But until I add the rest of them into the game, we're just gonna focus on Cashew. I started by adding some very basic and temporary controls just to put the characters into the game, and I also added some basic sand tiles with little sushi platforms on top of it. Here's some more concept art of that. But for now, it's basically just walking and jumping. It's kinda janky at the moment, but I do fix that later. In the meantime, the most important feature to implement to see if the game is worth continuing is cooking. First things first, I made the player pick up the item. There was a minor bug where you would always pick up the same item no matter which one was closest to you, but I fixed that. When I added chopping food, I came across one of the most random bugs that I never expected to run into, but it was easily fixable. Just completely made me wonder how I accidentally did it in the first place. I also managed to make it so you could pick up the entire chopping board sprite by accident too. Not really relevant, just a random silly mistake that I feel like sharing. Anyway, the game was looking a little bit plain, so I gave Cashew some animations and they look wonderful. He just looks very joyful to be there. The next part was probably one of the most crucial additions to this game. Such a beautiful, exquisite, and rice. It's rice. I added a rice cooker that now slowly cooks your, that's a bit too much. Let's try that again. Put the rice inside and wait a little while for it to cook, and that's a lot better. Now that I added rice and the chopped bits of sashimi, there's only one more obvious thing left to do. Put them together and make sushi. I added a plate, which was pretty straightforward, but with multiple recipes, this wasn't going to work well in the long run, and honestly, would be quite confusing each level. Also, I might as well say this now since I'm not sure when the next video will be out, but each level will focus on getting materials to the level's plating stations as quickly as possible, and they will have specific ingredients needed per plate. Unlike Overcooked, where you can basically just put any combination of food onto a plate as long as it's what the customer wants. As I was saying, I had to add an indicator for what food you needed, so I went ahead and added that too. That basically concludes the food making journey, and now you have sushi and sashimi rolls. And just like that, I had all the cooking mechanics finished. It took me around a month or 2 to actually finish by this point, but I also didn't spend every day working on it, and I just finished exams when I started the game, so my brain was like half functioning. Besides, I recorded my progress from each day, and when I went back to look at the dates that I recorded them on, there were only a total of 7 different dates that I had recordings from. So, for what I managed to achieve, it was pretty solid. I wasn't sure what to add next, so instead I focused on something that's been bothering me for quite a while at this point, the movement. It was so robotic and static, and if you played any platformer, you would know how important having smooth movement is to the fun of the game. I made it so that the player accelerates and decelerates when they start walking so that it felt a lot less robotic. I also added some coyote jumps so that the player doesn't always feel like they have to be punished if they don't get the timing exactly right. I also made it so that the player could control the height of their jumps, which is really helpful when you're trying to be precise in a platformer. All of these are such small additions, but it's crazy how they can change the feeling of your game for the better. Anyway, I added boxes that you could summon food from, kind of like an Overcooked. Also, the game was looking a little bit boring, and so I added a UI element that displays the character's icon, and then I realized what was really boring about it was just the background. I did forget to record all my pixel art time lapses up until this point, so this is what it looks like. You can see that the foreground is made out of palm trees that are actually just crabstick and avocados. The middle ground is just some sand with asparagus trees, and in the back I just added some seawater and mountains for scenery. I added them into the game, and I also added a parallax effect to it, and it just made things look way nicer. The last thing I really wanted to add was a better movement option. Yeah, the movement was way better now, but the lack of unique movement in the game was kind of making it feel basic. Think about Celeste. Even if the movement, walking and jumping wise was perfect, it wouldn't be the same if you didn't have the dash mechanic. The dash mechanic alone is probably what makes the game as fun as it is, so I resorted to adding something similar to it, a throwing mechanic. I was probably already going to make a throwing mechanic since it'd be pretty useful for future puzzles, but I thought that having it as a movement option was also pretty good. I made it so that each item has its own properties that change how far they go, so that some items will always go further or higher than others. But since the goal was to change player movement, I also added properties that give the player a boost. So now the players can be launched forward, backward, up, and down. It works with momentum too, which works very well for what I was going for. Obviously, I probably won't give this feature to the basic ingredients, but rather things you can find, which will make for some fun gameplay in the future. I did temporarily add them just to showcase what I will be able to do this, and it is great. The last feature I added as of now isn't that major, but it will probably make its mark eventually when I start making levels with it. I just added soy sauce that slows your movement. Also, I'm not sure if it's that noticeable in the clips that I've been showing so far, but the player bounces a lot when they're walking and it's very annoying, but I finally fixed that just by giving the tiles a composite collider. Ignore the centered camera movement as well, that's a task for the future. I just needed a way to follow the player to showcase things a little bit. But as of right now, that's it. This is how my project's been going so far. I think I'll be able to start making some of the first levels soon, as I only have a few more systems and features to implement. Right now I can already see that it's off to a great start, and I'm glad that I finally have enough content to show off. If you want to keep up with this journey, then definitely subscribe. I plan on posting some shorts as well to show more often in the future. I also finally set up a Discord server I created a while back, and I plan on posting updates there too. That will be in the description. Thank you all for watching the very first devlog of what I hope continues to be a longer series, and I truly hope you stick along. Goodbye.